The Veyron arena smelled like ozone and old pride. It was the kind of smell that clung to places where winners had stood for so long that the air itself learned to expect them. 7 years. That was how long Kale Veyron had held the championship title at the Interstellar Combat Academy, 7 years unbroken, unquestioned, and increasingly insufferable about it. He stood at the center of the combat ring now, 6 feet of engineered Celestari muscle wrapped in a sleek dueling suit that cost more than Mara Ellison's entire first year of tuition. His silver-gray skin caught the overhead lights beautifully. His team, 3 handlers, a performance analyst, and what appeared to be a personal hydration specialist, fussed at the edges of his space. Mara walked in alone. She wore her standard-issue cadet uniform, pressed but not pristine. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple elastic tie, the kind sold in packs of 30 from the Academy commissary for 2 credits. A small red scrunchie, frayed at one end. She'd been using it since Earth. She was still adjusting it when Kale noticed her. His eyes tracked the hair tie with the particular contempt that only someone very comfortable with power can produce, lazy, amused, certain. Is that? He tilted his head toward his analyst. Is she wearing a rubber band? Laughter rippled through the observer gallery. 200 cadets from 37 species, all watching, all finding it funny. Mara heard it. She always heard everything. Humans, she'd explained to her roommate Priya once, developed hypervigilance on a planet that was actively trying to kill them. It was called survival. The galaxy just hadn't caught up to understanding that yet. She finished adjusting her hair tie. Cadet Ellison. The proctor, a tall Vaxian woman named Commander Thessa, stepped forward with the ceremonial datapad. You have formally challenged champion Kale Veyron to a sanctioned duel under Academy Clause 7. The terms, single bout, 3-round format, standard augmentation rules. Do you confirm? Confirmed, Mara said. Kale rolled his neck. The sound of it, 3 deliberate, theatrical cracks, echoed across the arena. A power move. She'd read about it in his public duel archive. He did it before every match. Psychological warfare, Celestari style. I am so relaxed that my own body is bored. I want it noted, Kale said, addressing the proctor but projecting to the gallery, that I requested this match be postponed until the cadet had more training. I was overruled. He paused. I just wanted on record that I tried to protect her. More laughter. Mara stepped into her starting zone. She thought about her grandfather. He'd been a rock climber in his 80s, still going up faces in Patagonia. When she'd asked him once how he wasn't afraid of falling, he'd looked at her with something that wasn't quite a smile and said, Mara, I've been falling my whole life. I just got good at landing. Deathworlders didn't stop being afraid. They just built a relationship with fear that most species had never had to develop. Fear was data. Fear told you where the edges were. You used it, and then you moved. The round bell chimed. Kale came fast, faster than his archive suggested, which meant he'd been sandbagging previous opponents or had genuinely leveled up. Either way, Mara had accounted for both possibilities. She'd spent 6 weeks studying not just his recorded fights but the spaces between his recorded fights, the micro-adjustments he made, the tells in his footwork, the half-second where his left shoulder always dropped before a sweep. She let him push her back for the first 40 seconds of round 1. She needed to feel how he'd adapted. She took 2 hits, a glancing strike to her shoulder, a leg sweep she partially absorbed by rolling with it, and the gallery gasped with a pity that tasted like underestimation. She could use that too. There it is. His left shoulder. The subtle drop. The telegraph. She stopped retreating. The shift was so abrupt that Kale actually hesitated, a quarter second of recalibration, and Mara moved inside that quarter second like she'd paid for it in advance. Her elbow found his sternum. Her right hand redirected his wrist. Her hip drove through the space where he expected her to fold, and instead she unfolded him, using the momentum of his own strike to pivot him sideways and down. He hit the mat. The gallery went completely silent. Kale was up in 2 seconds. He was good, genuinely good, but Mara saw the new thing in his eyes. She knew what it was because she'd grown up with it: recalibration. The moment a brain stopped running its already decided subroutine and switched to actual present tense processing. Now he was paying attention. Round 1 ended 1-0 in her favor. Round 2 was harder. He adapted quickly, stopped telegraphing the shoulder drop, tightened his stance. He was a better fighter than most of the galaxy knew because most of the galaxy had never actually threatened him. He was rising to the occasion. So was she. She had 17 broken bones across her childhood, training, and one very unfortunate incident with a trail in the Rockies that her mother still didn't know about. She'd dislocated her shoulder 4 times. She had learned to function at a level of physical stress that most sentient species considered medically inadvisable, because Earth's baseline for manageable discomfort was calibrated against actual predators, actual altitude, actual cold. When Kale landed a real hit in round 2, a solid strike to her ribs that she knew would bruise spectacularly, she absorbed it, stepped through it, and kept going. His eyes widened. Why didn't she stop? Because stopping wasn't in the calculus. Because pain was information, not a command. Round 2 went to him on points, but she felt it when his confidence shifted from "I'll win" to "I might win," and those were very different things to fight against. Round 3. She tied it in the first 40 seconds. She won it in the next 90. When Kale Veyron, 7-year Academy Duel champion, went down for the final time, not dramatically, not in some cinematic collapse, but in the messy, undeniable way of someone who had genuinely run out of moves, the gallery didn't laugh. They were very, very quiet. Commander Thessa walked to the center of the ring. Her expression was the careful neutral of someone who had just witnessed something she would be thinking about for a long time. "Cadet Ellison wins," she said. 3 rounds. 2-1 by final point count. The aftermath was strange in the way that true upsets always are. There were mandatory post-duel interviews. There were medical checks, both of them standard protocol, though Mara suspected the physicians were more confused by her than Kale. "Your cortisol response is atypical." She'd heard that before. What she hadn't expected was the summons to the Academy Academic Council the following morning. The exam she'd been scheduled to take, the Interspecies Combat Theory Assessment, one of the notoriously brutal written components that had failed 30% of cadets in the last cycle, had been designed primarily around Celestari biomechanical frameworks. It had, for 7 years, been reviewed and adjusted by the same committee that Kale Veyron sat on as a student consultant. She found this out from Commander Thessa, who met her outside the council chamber with an expression that was almost a smile. "The council reviewed the duel footage last night," Thessa said. "All 11 hours of their archive review meeting. They would like to discuss with you, Cadet Ellison, your preparation methodology." "My preparation methodology," Mara repeated. "Specifically the sections that do not appear in any current curriculum." The council chamber was full of senior faculty, 7 species represented, most of them older than the human space program. They had questions. A lot of questions. About how she'd identified the shoulder telegraph in archived footage. About her training methodology for impact tolerance. About the cognitive frameworks she used for real-time combat adjustment under physical stress. She answered all of them. 2 months later, the combat theory exam was restructured. New sections, adaptive threat assessment, multi-species physiological variance in combat context, and a new elective module called Deathworld conditioning principles that she was, at the age of 22, asked to help design. The frayed red hair tie sat on her desk while she wrote the curriculum outline. She kept it there on purpose. Not as a trophy. Not as a reminder of Kale Veyron's laughter, which had long since stopped mattering. She kept it because it was a good hair tie, it held well, it hadn't broken, it had done its job perfectly under pressure. Humans, she had learned, were like that. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest or the most naturally gifted species in the galaxy, but because they came from a place that had been trying to kill them since the beginning, and somewhere along the way, they had mistaken surviving that for the normal baseline. The galaxy was still catching up. She tied back her hair and kept writing.